Hello, I'm Lisa Wilson. Welcome to my little world of art. Today we're going to draw and paint a rose. I use watercolors for my painting today and watercolor pencils. Red and green watercolor pencils are used to draw out the rose. You start in the center of the rose and you work your way through, making little round circles, linking them together. And you can make as many as you want, many petals as you want for your rose. This is done on an 8x10 piece of paper, and it has to be watercolor paper. And you can make little zigzags with your pencil, your watercolor pencils, as you draw it out. For beginners, this is a very good tutorial to follow. And I use a green watercolor pencil to just draw out some simple leaves and a stem for your rose. As you can see, I put little veins in my leaves to follow, to know that they were leaves. And my paints that I'm using on this rose are titanium white, ripe sienna, flesh tint, brilliant red, rose red, crimson red, light olive green, sap green, and grass green. I start with the lightest color and I work my way to the darkest color on the rose and on each leaf and the stem, and then I go back and outline. So let's get started. Here's a palette with my colors that I've already put on the palette, and I'm using the smallest paintbrush, and it is a size 4 paintbrush. You use water to put in your paints and to thin your paints down. It makes your pigments much better. I started in the center of my rose with the lighter flesh tint color, and I work my way around on each petal, and I skip petals in between. Colors for the rose are flesh tint, brilliant red, rose red, crimson red. I'm now going into the brilliant red on each petal, and I am skipping some of the petals to use with the other colors. And while you're painting, don't just make straight lines. Use a wiggle or a zigzag pattern as you go around each petal. And I am now using a rose red and doing the same thing. I'm going around each petal and filling in some spaces with the rose red watercolor. Each time I use a color, I have to wash my paintbrush out so the colors won't mix. And then I'll go back in with crimson red to finish up what I'm doing. And I'll fill in all the rest of the petal around the edges of each petal to make the rose stand out. If there's any areas that you have left white where the paper is showing through, you can go back and you can repaint those areas. And as you see, I am working with the zigzag patterns so that nothing is perfect. Roses are never perfect. Their petals is never perfect. And this is how you paint. I'm going around the outside petals and the outside edges in the same zigzag pattern. Just wiggle your paintbrush, make little zigzags or big zigzags, however you want to do it on each petal. And then I'm going back in and filling in some of the white areas that I left and around the outside petals. Okay, that looks pretty good. And now I am going to go in with the greens for the leaves and for the stem. I have light olive green, sap green, and grass green. I've only used 3 colors. I start with the lighter color, light olive green. And I go around the top parts of each leaf with the light olive green and down part of the middle of each leaf. And I go in with sap green, which is a medium color, and I go in the middle of each leaf and paint that. And I fill that in with sap green. And I do the stem the same way. I paint it, I go down the middle and down the stem. And then I go to grass green and I fill in next to the petals to give it a little bit more depth. It makes the petals look like they're going to stand out. And I go down the middle of each leaf for the vines. And on the stem, I go on the stem and I will show you how to do where the rose was just a bloom, a little bud, and just started blooming out. There are little leaves on that part, and it's kind of round, as I'm showing you here. And that part is dark green, so I put the grass green in the center of that. Okay, and now we can outline the rose and the leaves. And I outline the rose with titanium white. And you add water, but not so much water, just enough, and then you roll your round brush on the paint, and you start in the center, and you start forming your petals. And yes, you still use like the little zigzag motion with your hand and your paintbrush, and you form each of the petals. And no petal is exactly alike, like I've told you before. You just fill them in, and you fill in your petals with the white and little thin lines to form your petals. And you go around and you complete each petal with the titanium white. And it's okay if you make a mistake. You can always go back and correct it. There's no judgments here. Everybody can paint if they try. I'm just going in finishing up the petals. I'm going around the outer petals. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm putting water on the brush and going in the white titanium, and I'm going around each petal. And between each of your paint colors, you wash your brush out so that you can use the next color. Okay, I'm finishing up around the outside edges of the petals to make it stand out a little bit better. Okay, this looks like it's about done. Okay, the outlines with the white titanium looks good. I'm going back in and correcting a few little places. And now we need to darken the center of that rose just a little bit. So I'm going back in with the crimson red. And I have ripe sienna. and I'm going in with the Sienna, ripe Sienna, and I'm going to outline each of the leaves. So we're going to outline each of the leaves with the ripe Sienna, and also the stem and the leaves on where the rose bloomed from, on those little leaves on each side. And in the center of that, I'm taking the ripe Sienna and filling in down at the little peak there so that it will give it more depth. And now I'm going around each of the leaves. There's 3 leaves with the ripe Sienna, and I am going to do each of the veins in the leaves also. And your veins that you make them like into a little arch. Don't make it a straight line, and then add your little veins out from that arch, and it makes the petals look like they have more depth, or the leaves have more depth. Okay, I'm about through with the petals. But it needs something else with the petals done, or the leaves done rather. So let's go back in and darken the center of the rose with crimson red and just a touch of ripe Sienna to bring out that color in the center of the rose to make it darker. And let's go in with a little bit of titanium white. And I normally always try to draw a heart in the center of my roses because the center looks like a heart to me. And as you can see, there's my little heart. May not be perfect, but it's a heart. And now it looks done to me and finished. So let's put our signature somewhere on our art piece. And it could be anywhere around the edges or the sides. And you can also go on around your painting with a darker color to make your rose stand out that much more. But for now, I think I will just sign my name and I will call it done. Say thank you for watching my video and come back to my YouTube channel for more videos. Thank you and have a great evening.